Vision here. Today I'm doing another poetry reading, from my book, From Victim to Victor: Transforming Trauma into Triumph. So this one's called "What's My Value Again." So this one's I'll just get right into it. What's my value again? Could I seek value without feeling overlooked? Did I seek value in another self-care book? What's my value? Priceless. What's my value? Priceless. Why was there self-abusive written on my eyelids? Why did I pinch my skin to numb all the anguish? Wore a mask several nights, instilled internal damage. If the voice isn't affirming me, they need to vanish. Sought after shallow applause. Sought after meaningless vices that had no cause. Someone's unsolicited advice, my worth was found. My value never solidified, victimized by clouds of self-doubt. Sparred between purpose and my obituary, never valued me, presumed the biggest curse is scary. How I danced with blades until my wrists hurt, needed a shovel to dig up my self-worth from the dirt. Thought I lacked talent, said my talent is questionable. All your words toxic, none of them edible. Unless it came from God, your words ain't credible. Held my head so low, decision that I single-handedly chose to not listen to the voice of reason. I forfeit, writing for no valid reason, except lack of validation for myself and others. Words I wish I could take back when I felt so smothered. Counting shortcomings never saved me from myself. It's time to change the narrative that I rehearsed. Never needed your approval to see my value. Never needed your approval to see my value. Created my own funeral, and I will not devalue myself or honor your words like they are the Bible. Conjured up lies, I'm breaking the cycle of isolation and drinking to fill a void. Life is a healing process. I now find my joy. You're just mad 'cause I'm not your toy. Head games are for children, decoy. My value found in others. Silent prayers, people spoke on my behalf to remind me not to break my faith in half. Grateful that God was my staff. Chose not to live life like I was born last. My value found behind a black mask. I'm through seeing my worth from your lens. I found worth within me, and I no longer have to pretend. So that was called that one was called What's My Value Again. It's a poem about how I was chasing validation and wanting to fill a void, by drinking and getting involved with self-harm. And I realized that for me it was something that I didn't really speak about to anyone. It was something I kept quiet about. I didn't want people to judge me, so I just started to hide behind a mask to make it seem like I was okay. I wasn't okay. And I'm realizing now that how I feel now about it. It's like now I know my value. I know the inner work could take the months and the years to be able to fast track the healing from going through mental abuse, and finally seeing the value that I have to share my story with other people who may be also going through the same struggles as I did when I was facing, mental hardships, especially during the pandemic when I felt so isolated and I felt like nobody understood. But that was something that I, in my mind, I thought that was something that was true, and it was a false reality that I was living. I was living, with low self esteem. I write in this book about how I wasn't able to find my footing in life because I thought that everything I was achieving didn't mean anything, didn't have any value, and started thinking of like people were pretty much making it seem like I wasn't valuable. Like I'll put out a record, and every time I would put out a record, it would get trashed. And not saying it was from everyone, it was from a couple of people in particular. And I definitely won't throw names out there. However, it was traumatic for me because I spoke about it a while. Excuse me, about how I internalized a lot of things, and because of that, I started and then challenge not challenging, but I didn't actually challenge my limiting beliefs. I actually started to throw fire on those things that people were saying, and it got bigger because in my head it was to the point where I was like, oh wow, they say I was not talented, so I must not be talented. I must not be equipped to be out here, making music for people, making music that heals people and saves lives and empowers people to keep going and see their self-worth. And for me, that was always a thing that was in my head, and it was like just such a difficult feat to manage, to be able to know that I am worthy of a career and helping people with my music, because that was my passion, versus people were telling me I'm not good enough. So I was always, in a sense, wrestling between those two things. The last, past couple of years, even more than a couple of years, 8 years plus, when I was really going through back and forth with the identity crisis, with the rebrand from Rich Vision to from Rich to Fresh to Rich Vision, and having that big transition, and wondering if I was able to even get past those comments and those self-limiting beliefs. And I wasn't happy with myself. I was getting to the point where I was I shut down. I didn't really eat. I decided to um there was times that I felt like, I was like, oh, I should just be anorexic, or get into bulimia. Like, I was just like in my head, like fantasizing about it and what that meant, for me. And you know back then, when I really wasn't feeling like I was enough, I was just thinking about all those things, like, oh, I should just stick a finger in my mouth and whatever, the sun gain weight. And I was just like, it was all these different things that made me, that really exact, that really enhanced the feeling of my unworthiness that I felt at the time. And those thoughts of shame, I was feeling shame of, like, or just rejection in general, of being rejected excuse me, by others. So it was easier to just be closed off at the time. And because I was not in my right mind, I started to think that everything that people were saying about my music that was positive was also a lie. And a lot of those things, I allowed it to fester in my mind to the point where I did want to give up, and I did want to not be here, and I didn't want to bring I didn't want anyone, I didn't want myself to have to deal with the rejection. So for me, ending my life was something that would alleviate the tension of having people judge my music or reject my music. Because when people were rejecting my music, I felt like they were rejecting me, and my value. I put a lot of my value in my music, and it was hard for me to separate the two, my music and also myself. And I realized that now that I am, a different person outside my music, and I'm learning how to embrace that now. But it was always hard. Still is today. Um, and I'm looking now because I'm just looking at how in some of the lines it said, never needed your approval to see my value. And I realized that I was chasing after approval for so long that I started to lose the value that I had. And it really took me, some people saying, one person saying like, well, you're acting fake, and I'm like, wow, I didn't really know I was being fake. And then it also helped me to see my value of like, and and also change my psyche a bit of how I viewed my music, in general, in regards to, um, I'm like, it's not who I am, you know, and a person who values themselves, in my opinion, is someone who is authentic, in their own right. And I wasn't being authentic because I didn't really value, what I was putting out there, or I felt like it would measure up to all these other people that I was inspired to be, um, like, in a sense, or just like inspired by at the time. But it was just always hard for me to find my value until I looked in the mirror and I said, I am enough because I have something to contribute. And what really helped me find my value is, one person, who was in the church visiting, my church. It was years ago. He was like, must have been like a preteen. He was with a group, Canada, and he ended up, we ended up swapping social medias. Um, he hit me up that same night, that I got back home from, being at the church, that evening. And then when I got back home, something told me to look at my messenger, my Facebook messenger. So I clicked on it on my phone, and then I realized that that it was, Ryan saying that my YouTube saved his life, and I didn't even know what he had went through up until, at all. I won't say up until the point because I didn't know him from anywhere. So just from meeting him like um, once or twice. But other than that, it wasn't anything other than like small talk conversation, and other than that, really, it was more. It was difficult to even realize that. I'm like, wow, like someone who doesn't really know me, he's a preteen, saying that my YouTube saves his life. And I don't know what video exactly, but the premise is that my music and what I put out has power. That literally that day really shifted my entire life, because I started to take myself seriously as an artist, because I said, I have such a responsibility now that people are, finding, my music or whatever the stuff I'm putting out online, and they're finding, refuge in it and healing. And for me, that's always a big responsibility, for me. And it's not really to give myself a lot of pressure, but it's also my responsibility as an artist to be able to shed awareness of, mental health and things that, and empower people to fight for their life, fight for their dreams, to not resort to suicide, which I honestly always, I'm a big advocate for, because I've been to those extremes, and more times than I can count, and it's a part of my testimony, thankfully, right? But it's not always, it hasn't always been peaches and cream, and it's been hard. But I've been in community therapy and I've gotten help. But I'll keep it to close it out this session by saying, thank you for watching. If you're able to, again, also, what's my value again? As a reminder that your value doesn't change because of what someone says about you. Your value only changes once you change the story that you believed in for several years that you weren't enough. Your value starts when you change that story to say, I am enough, I've always been enough, and I will always continue to believe that wholeheartedly. And I just commend you for watching, and I thank you for your time as always. The book is, I can go on about self-worth because that's been all my life, has been a journey through self-worth, but this is my custom bookmark. I am victorious because my past does not define me. Please order the book on Amazon.com, or if you rather order it from my site, because Amazon does take a lot of the funds. You can also purchase it on my website. You can get one of these, and also my business card, and also a custom postcard as well, with the wristband added on too. So if you're able to support, I appreciate it more than you know. I appreciate everyone who also purchased the books already. And books are in my bio. I will also link it here in the description as well, the comment box. And if you also want to support the book, I do have Cash App, Zelle, and also Venmo for other payment methods. If you are wanting to use those payment methods, or if you're skeptical about the book, From Victim to Victor, Transforming Trauma into Triumph. It's a poetry book about mental health, my journey through the pandemic, about healing from mental abuse, overcoming mental abuse, also struggling with suicidal ideation and self-harm. And this is my journey to healing and finding a new sense of self. And I will say, this book has been such a testimony to my resilience from this past couple of years, that I struggled behind a closed door that a lot of people really don't know. So it is a little bit of a insight view of what I've been going through the past couple of years. So I'm very proud of myself for that. And what else? That's pretty much it. If you need to DM me, please DM me for more information about the book. And also, if you're skeptical, if you decide to subscribe to my email list on my website, you get 3 chapters for free as well. So like a little bit of a sample of what I have in the book. If you're not convinced by the poetry, that all of my stuff is vulnerable, a lot of my stuff is deep. It's not one of those books that you really could read in one sitting. It's a really deep book. So, and it does have self-harm references, so I do add that disclaimer also on my website as well. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you are enough, and you don't get to please don't allow anyone to discredit your worth and your potential, because you always have potential and you always have worth. You just had it stuck deep inside of you, and now it's time to let it out and embrace your new your new sense of worth and your new reading power.